Virtual Universe Primal Region, Bolan's training grounds was a land of ice and snow. The snow was enough to cover a person's knees. Bolan sat crossed-legged in the snow, only his upper body was exposed, his eyes closed. Bolan. A cold voice resounded. What? Bolan stood up, the snow scattered all around, he turned and looked behind. A tall and skinny man with narrow eyes like a venomous snake, his entire body emanating origin law ripples appeared in the snow, looking down at Bolan. LuoFeng has already passed the 7th level of the Heavenly Bridge, why are you hurt? Teacher. Bolan bowed slightly, not saying much. Primal Region members were specially assigned with an Undying to teach them, and according to the needs of the Primal Region members, they could change to different Undying teachers. The one before him was an official level Undying. Foolish, laughably foolish. The man's cold gaze swept past Bolan. You still foolishly insist on your initial thoughts? Teacher, I've thought it through. Bolan bowed. Speak. The cold man said. I admit I was arrogant in the past, I trusted myself too much. Bolan said solemnly, the Universe Primal Chaos Tablet training, I've decided to walk the space origin law path. That's the wisest decision. The cold man revealed a smile. Just like when parents make decisions for their children, the children will be stubborn however. When they grow up, they will find out that the path their parents gave them was actually the right one. One theory. Bolan's decisions were usually wise. When he was young, many warriors weren't as smart as him, his choices were always right. However, on the question of which tablet to choose for Primal Chaos City, the ones who gave Bolan suggestions were all Undyings, even the Universe country leaders who were worried about the geniuses falling. The Undyings and even the Universe country leaders, how high were their standards? With their long lifespans, how many geniuses had they seen? Their suggestions were actually able to withstand the test of time. Maybe. If Bolan persevered 10,000 years, 100,000 years, a million years later, he too could become an absolute warrior amongst the Undyings. However, LuoFeng of the same generation would have long since left him behind. Your space talent is the most ridiculous I've ever seen. The cold man said coldly, even compared to the legendary geniuses, just comparing space talent, you're considered top-notch. Your decision now is very wise. You should rejoice that you have LuoFeng as your opponent from the same generation. Because he woke you up, said the gloomy man. Bolan was silent, but his eyes were suffused with a trace of special light. LuoFeng? Since you've made your choice, you can start following my teaching plan, the man said. The Universe Primal Chaos Tablet cultivated both space and time. But even after hundreds of millions of years, how many people could develop time and space at the same time and improve at the same speed? Therefore, there were 3 ways to comprehend the Universe Primal Chaos Tablet. The first was to use time as the main factor and space as a supplementary factor. One was based on space with time as a supplement. The first was a combination of time and space cultivation. The third option would be the most ridiculous if it succeeded. Bolan had chosen the third option previously. But now he had chosen to walk the path of space and time. He chose the right path. The speed of his improvement was truly astonishing. LuoFeng. LuoFeng, hurry over. Madman, come to Wuka. While flipping through the 3rd volume of the time-space scribbles, LuoFeng, who was seriously pondering, received emails from Wuka and Rong Jun. The two were worried about disturbing his training, hence they sent emails. Based on LuoFeng's situation, the virtual assistant Babata will tell LuoFeng that there's a mail. The two of them are in such a rush to find me? LuoFeng smiled and shook his head. After which he leaped out of the balcony and flew into mid-air, rushing towards Wuka's villa not too far away. Within the living room, Wuka and Rong Jun sat there. On the table before them was good wine. Madman is here. Rong Jun stood up. LuoFeng, LuoFeng. Wuka was the first to rush out, welcoming LuoFeng and giving him a fierce bear hug. What? LuoFeng was shocked, dodging to the side and smiling at Wuka. So passionate? Madman, you're simply too awesome. Wuka grabbed LuoFeng's hand and directly dragged him into the living room. LuoFeng looked at the fine wine on the table, especially the 2 complicated words Thunderstorm on the jade bamboo. He couldn't help but be shocked as he exclaimed, Wuka, you miser, you're actually willing to buy Thunderstorm wine? Thunder Rain wine. In reality, even true Yen Emperor wouldn't be willing to casually drink it. Even in the virtual universe, 1 bottle of Thunder Rain wine was worth 32 mixed elements. That was equivalent to 1 bottle of wine, drinking the entire fortune of a sector lord, 10 galaxies worth of territory. However, amongst LuoFeng, Rong Jun and Wuka, Wuka was without a doubt the wealthiest. There was no choice who asked his father to have such a high position. Wuka's father was one of the top few in the Savage Universe country. However, even so, he didn't dare spend so much money. What's 1 bottle of wine? Wuka passionately opened the black heavy-wood cork of the jade bamboo wine flask and poured some wine for LuoFeng. The wine was translucent and there seemed to be crystal-clear dewdrops floating within. Also, the dewdrops in the wine even had threads of electricity circulating within them. Even though this Thunder Rain wine didn't have the miraculous effects of changing one's genes in reality. However, from the body and soul's point of view, it was exactly the same. Drinking Thunder Rain wine in the virtual universe was an extremely extravagant act. Isn't it just 1 bottle of wine, brother? You've passed the 7th level of the Heavenly Bridge. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. Wuka couldn't help but shout. Ah, you all know? LuoFeng was stunned. Madman, you're very shameless. Beside, Rong Jun, who was enjoying the taste of the thunder rain wine, couldn't help but say, "Yes, shameless, you didn't even tell us about this. Luckily the watchman Bevan sent us a mail." Wuka said, "Damn." LuoFeng stared, "This Bevan actually? Haha, this mail came at the right time." Wuka said, "You didn't see it. Ever since the Virtual Universe Company sent a mail a while ago, it wrote some information about the qualification battles. In the past, the Absolute Beginning region was still peaceful. However, after that mail, the atmosphere within the Absolute Beginning region became much more violent. Everyone's fighting, afraid of being kicked into the sky and land region." Wuka shook his head. "Those seniors all look down on us 8 newbies. I don't like them, hence I often fight with them." Often fight. LuoFeng was stunned. Wuka had only passed the 5th level of the Heavenly Bridge, and of the Universe level 30 seniors, 5 had passed the 7th level, and the other 25 had passed the 6th. "Why, we can't fight? Us Manka people don't lower our heads and admit defeat. If we lose for now, we'll return and fight again." Wuka snorted coldly. "That group of idiots, they all think they're infallible, but in the end they were still injured by me. However, this isn't even that satisfying. What's satisfying is, when the group of them saw the mail, they saw that you had passed the 7th level. You didn't see their expressions, it was amazing. Many of them were shocked with their eyes wide open, some even exclaiming that it was impossible." Wuka laughed loudly. "Back then I was laughing maniacally, teasing them, they couldn't even retort. That was satisfying. I went back to buy some thunder rain wine, to reward the great hero of us newbies, and also the number 1 of our batch of newbies. Temporarily number 1. Beside, Rong Jun revealed a smile, looking at LuoFeng. Temporarily number 1. Wuka nodded. LuoFeng laughed. The reason why his relationship with Wuka and Rong Jun was good, was because they all had something similar in their bones, never admitting defeat. Maybe they might temporarily fall behind, but they wouldn't give up, instead they would constantly improve. "Wuka, Rong Jun, I'm preparing to continue taking on missions." LuoFeng said, "However, I know very little about them, do you have any suggestions?" "The missions, of course, the higher the difficulty, the more shocking the points." Wuka said, "I have some suggestions, I've already completed all 10 of these 100 years. Rong Jun said, "This was what my teacher told me." The 3 began to discuss. LuoFeng's plan was to first pass the 7th level of the Heavenly Bridge, after which he would make use of the time to do the missions, going through a series of battles in reality. There were also some special cultivation mission environments to sharpen himself and improve himself. After the Blood River World mission, after getting a huge benefit, LuoFeng no longer treated the missions as normal. Behind every mission world there might be some hidden benefits. It all depended on whether or not he could get it. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had to do his best. As the 3 chatted, LuoFeng had a clearer plan on how to choose his missions. "This wine is really good. This feeling is even better than breaking through to the universe level, the feeling of life-changing." LuoFeng closed his eyes, feeling the changes in his body and the comfort of his soul. Of course this was all simulated in the virtual universe. If it was the real Thunder Rain wine, Wuka and the others wouldn't be able to afford it. Only True Yen Emperor and Tong Nan Emperor, those powerful beings, would only be able to afford it once in countless years. "The wine is really good, I should go to class too. Today's class is taught by an Emperor-level Undying, it suits me very well." LuoFeng stood up. "I won't send you off. You go." Rong Jun and Wuka laid on the sofa, reminiscing the taste of the Thunder Rain wine, not willing to get up at all. One had to work hard during training, the occasional luxury naturally had to be enjoyed. These 2 punks. LuoFeng smiled and shook his head, after which he became a beam of light and flew out, rushing into the sky. At the same time, within another villa in the Absolute Beginning region. Today's class is about the space and gold origin laws combination, that LuoFeng will definitely go. Moe Lin, ah sure. The 2 of you go to class too, take the chance to find an excuse to battle LuoFeng and feel him out. Once you know his moves and prepare when the qualification battles come, it'll be much easier." The silver-robed man said. Absolute Beginning Region, Lecture Building Number 2 Hall. 80 kilometers long, 60 kilometers wide, it was much bigger than a normal city on Earth, however it was just a place for the Undyings to teach. At the back of this hall number 2, there were over 1,000 random seats. Right now, there were a few Absolute Beginning members that became beams of light and flew 10 kilometers to their seats. So, LuoFeng too appeared before the 1,000 seats, randomly choosing a seat on the left. "Look, it's LuoFeng. He's the newbie from the newest genius competition? He looks quite handsome. He hasn't been in the virtual universe company for long and he's already passed the 7th level, he's very strong. We're only at the 8th level but we're already domain lord level." In the corner were 2 ladies, one with beautiful wings and the other with eyes filled with endless temptation. They weren't shy at all, instead looking passionately in LuoFeng's direction, discussing softly. The other members were discussing too. "That's LuoFeng? Right, it's him. This punk is quite vicious. Back when we were universe level, the highest we could reach was the 7th level. That was 3,000 years after we joined the virtual universe company. According to his improvement speed, there's no hope of entering the Primal Region in this qualification battle. However, in the next one, maybe there'll be hope. As long as he's given a few thousand years, he'll definitely be able to make it into the Primal Region." 2 sector lords sat in a corner, discussing. Discussions were everywhere. The moment LuoFeng sat down, the entire hall number 2 had close to 100 people here to listen to the lecture. They were all discussing LuoFeng. He became the center of attention. To be able to pass the 7th level in such a short amount of time, even before the first qualification battle, to be able to do this, they were all absolute geniuses. LuoFeng sat there quietly, his ears twitching. He could clearly hear the discussions. I've become a zoo animal. LuoFeng felt helpless within. How do you do, LuoFeng? A rough voice resounded. LuoFeng turned to look. It was a rather ugly-looking man with 6 protrusions on his forehead and black hair on his face. This man sat a few meters away from LuoFeng. He turned and smiled. My name is SwallowedStar, Domain Lord level. I've heard many talking about you today, however you're indeed very powerful. Thanks, said LuoFeng. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. According to the population distribution, there were 1,000 sector lords, 100 domain lords and 30 universe levels in the absolute beginning region. LuoFeng and the others had 8 new people, causing the entire absolute beginning region to have 1138 people. However, after the qualification battle, the number of members in the absolute beginning region would return to 1130. From the ratio, one could see that the number of sector lords was the highest. This resulted in the majority of the people in this hall being sector lords, with a small portion being domain lords. Universe levels were pitifully few in number, including LuoFeng. There were only a total of 4 people. This already made LuoFeng shocked, as usually only 2 universe levels would attend these classes. Today there are 2 more universe level members attending the class. LuoFeng thought. The chances of an absolute beginning mystic dimension member entering the primitive mystic dimension is extremely low. SwallowedStar said in a low voice, my friends and I have been chatting. They all think that you have a high chance of entering the primitive mystic realm in a few hundred years. In our absolute beginning mystic realm, it is very rare for one person to enter the primitive mystic realm. Every time something like this happens, it makes me incomparably excited. One step ahead and you'll always be ahead. The earlier you enter the primitive mystic realm, the faster you'll improve. SwallowedStar seemed to be exclaiming, saying beside him. LuoFeng turned to look at SwallowedStar. If you work hard, you too have hopes of entering the primitive mystic realm. Haha. Don't laugh at me. In the next qualification battles, it'll be good enough if I can stay in the absolute beginning region. SwallowedStar shook his head, his eyes filled with helplessness. In the next qualification battles, I'll be kicked out of the sky and land region. Then my position outside will be lowered too. What a headache. Domain Lord level core members were positions of great authority when they were sent out. According to LuoFeng's explanation, he'd be a governor outside. However, Primal, Absolute Beginning, Sky and Land members, Apocalypse members, their treatment outside was completely different. When the primitive mystic realm members leave, just the guards alone would be an army led by an Undying. When the time comes, the position they'd be assigned would match their status. If a Primal member was suddenly kicked out of the Absolute Beginning member, then the official positions would be quickly changed. Even the guards led by the Undying would be moved away, replaced by a sector lord. That punk sure is unlucky. When he goes out to be a governor, he'll probably be powerful at first. However, seeing that he'll be kicked out of the sky and land region in the qualification battles, there'll definitely be a change in position and status. LuoFeng laughed within. Simultaneously, he casually chatted with this big body, finding out about some of the things a governor would often encounter. After a while, the Undying teacher arrived and began his lesson. Immediately there was complete silence. Even if they wanted to discuss, they had to communicate. They definitely didn't dare disturb the teacher's lesson. There were a total of 4 universe level members in classroom 2. Of them, one had a face full of silver scales and the other had bronze skin, with a single black horn on his forehead. Sure, look, that LuoFeng is pretty serious in class. The silver-scaled man communicated. The black horn man looked at LuoFeng in the left corner. Moe Lin, and Ni Nan wants us to find a reason to fight him and test his strength. How do you think we should challenge him? If we run over and cause trouble for him, if he doesn't even bother with us and leaves the virtual universe, we'll be dumbfounded. Relax, I have a plan. The silver-scaled man squinted, like a venomous snake. Let's do this first. It's very ordinary. The black-horned man frowned after listening. Then what else can we do? There's no 100% guarantee of success. The silver-scaled man said. Alright, once this lesson ends we'll head over. The black-horned man nodded. The Emperor-level Undying explained for a long time. Under the intense gazes of the absolute geniuses, he vanished into thin air. LuoFeng closed his eyes to reflect on the many wonders of the lecture before. Only then did he open his eyes. With a glance, he saw 2 men standing before him. One had a face full of silver scales, the other was sturdier, with a single black horn on his forehead. The common point was, these 2 were both universe level. The 2 looked at LuoFeng. You 2 are. LuoFeng sat there looking at the 2. How do you do, LuoFeng? I'm Moe Lin. The silver-scaled man smiled. LuoFeng, I'm sure. The black-horned man smiled. We're the same as you, universe level members, only we joined the virtual universe company a little earlier. What business do the 2 of you have? LuoFeng creased his eyebrows. Towards the universe level seniors, LuoFeng didn't have much of a good impression. Because when he chatted with Wuka today, Wuka had told him some things. Even though Wuka didn't specifically mention who they were, there were only a total of 30 universe level seniors. Anyway, most of them had conflicts with Wuka. We know LuoFeng passed the 7th level of the Heavenly Bridge. We're very impressed. The silver-scaled man's eyes gleamed. I, Moe Lin, love to battle. Hence I wish to challenge you in the arena and have a good spar. I too wish to battle you. The black-horned man looked at LuoFeng. LuoFeng creased his eyebrows. Battle? If it was for training, one could imitate powerful warriors in the training grounds. And to specially battle someone, it was usually to see who was stronger or weaker, or to understand the opponent's background. Knowing oneself and one's enemy was the only way to win. I'm afraid they've never fought with me before, they don't know my battle style or my trump cards. Even though there are videos of the genius battles back then, I was still very weak back then. Now I'm many times stronger than back then. The videos back then didn't reflect my strength at all, hence they came to challenge me. LuoFeng immediately understood. Sorry, I'm not interested. LuoFeng got up and left. The black-horned man and the silver-scaled man glanced at each other, they could only follow the other method of challenge. Haha, LuoFeng, you're still the number one of this batch of newbies, I didn't expect you to be so cowardly. The silver-scaled man said. You don't even dare to accept our challenge, looks like none of you newbies have any hope. The black-horned man said. That Wuka is dumb, he's so weak yet he dares to fight us. LuoFeng, you have the strength, yet you don't dare to fight us. This qualification battle you newbies should just give up. As there was a group of sector lords and domain lords in classroom 2 who were listening to the lecture earlier, they all turned to look with interest. Most of them paid attention to LuoFeng because he was indeed shocking. However, that was because they were of different levels, they were sector lords and domain lords, they didn't have any conflict of interest with LuoFeng at the moment, naturally they were calm. Those two's provocations are too lacking. They are lacking, if it were me I wouldn't even bother. Two little clowns. The sector lords and domain lords discussed. Some of the sector lords' voices were especially loud. Immediately the silver-scaled man and the black-horned man's expressions became even uglier. LuoFeng's footsteps suddenly stopped. This made the group of sector lords and domain lords shocked. Was LuoFeng prepared to accept the challenge? Was he that easily provoked? LuoFeng turned to look at the silver-scaled man and the black-horned man. The silver-scaled man and the black-horned man noticed LuoFeng's unfriendly gaze. Wuka is going to fight you? LuoFeng looked at the two. You're talking about that Manka prince? The silver-scaled man sneered, beside him the black-horned man replied, that's an idiot, fighting us and getting trampled on by us. Congratulations. LuoFeng said. The silver-scaled man and the black-horned man were stunned. Congratulations? I didn't want to fight before because I didn't want to waste time on you. LuoFeng looked at the two, however now, you've made me very unhappy. I've decided to trample on you once. The silver-scaled man Moe Lin and the black-horned Ashur felt a surge of rage within as they heard LuoFeng's words. They were indeed following Ni Nan's instructions to provoke LuoFeng, however no matter what, they were still the absolute geniuses of the trillions of races in the universe, otherwise why would they enter the absolute beginning region? Geniuses were all proud. Wasting time? Fighting them was a waste of time, and this was said by a newbie who hadn't been in the virtual universe company for long. Let's go to the arena. LuoFeng turned and headed out, almost as though he wanted to quickly end the battle. Moe Lin looked at his back and couldn't help but snort coldly. Too arrogant. Ashur squinted. The two of them exchanged glances and then followed LuoFeng out of room 2. There were still many sector lords and domain lords in classroom 2 who had noticed their conversation. Seeing the situation, their eyes gleamed. Interesting. The newbies are fighting the seniors. However, usually the seniors win with an overwhelming advantage. However, this time it's hard to say. Comparing LuoFeng against those two, LuoFeng should be stronger. However, if LuoFeng is up against the strongest of the seniors, Luofu and the others, it's undoubtedly Luofu who's stronger. Let's go and have a look. Who knows, the 5 geniuses of the seniors might make a move too. The group of sector lords and domain lords all formed into groups of 3 to 5 and called their friends as they walked out. The elite genius LuoFeng of this batch of newbies going to battle in the arena, that was an extremely interesting thing. The absolute beginning region after all only had so many members. As for the few famous universe level and domain lords, the sector lords naturally knew of them. The absolute beginning region took up a huge amount of space and built many arenas. Normally, it became the place for the absolute beginning members to spar, battle and even bet. At this moment, there were over 10 people gathered at the edge of one of the arenas, and there were 2 region lords fighting on the arena. One was a tall and robust black-furred ape man that was an entire 8m tall, while the other was a cold and bald young man with a cold expression on his bald head. Moreover, there were some very complicated and strange patterns on his bald head. In an instant, over 10,000 images were left in the arena. The black-haired ape man roared and waved his 10m long huge axe. The two's exchange caused the surrounding space to tremble and ripples to shoot in all directions. The ground around the arena was a mess. This time I've lost. A cold voice rang out. Haha. The rough and deep voice seemed to echo as the black-furred ape man looked down at the cold bald youth. In the last 100 years, we've fought 10 times and you've already lost 7 times. The cold, bald youth closed his eyes, reflecting on the previous battle. The dozen or so people who were watching the battle from the sidelines also began to discuss. Some were preparing to leave, while others were inviting each other to fight. Hey look! What's going on there? So many people? These people, including the black-furred ape man and the bald youth, all saw at least 60 to 70 people bustling over from afar. Luo Feng walked at the front, behind him were Moe Lin and Ah Shi, and behind them were a large group of sector lords and domain lords. This bustling group was indeed eye-catching. Luo Feng watched as he walked. With a glance, he saw about 10 people at the side of one of the arenas. None of them were universe levels. Which arena? Said Luo Feng. You are after all a newbie, you choose? Behind Luo Feng, the silver-scaled youth Moe Lin said coldly. All right. Luo Feng stomped and became a beam of light, flying to an arena 10 kilometers away. The silver-scaled youth Moe Lin and the black-horned youth Ah Shi too immediately became two beams of light and flew towards that arena. At the same time, the sector lords and domain lords who were preparing to watch the battle, a large group of them either flashed or flew, all landing at the side of the arena. Let's go take a look. With so many people watching, it's probably not a normal battle. The dozen or so area lords flew over as well, including the black-furred ape man and the bald youth. Luo Feng and the other two landed in the arena. Luo Feng looked at the distant arena. It was mainly sector lords, very few domain lords, and there were actually only 2 universe levels. One was a universe-level old man, the other was the green-haired youth Jiang Mo. Jiang Mo smiled at Luo Feng, simultaneously waving his fist and communicating, Luo Feng, that group of seniors have always looked down on us newbies. You have to help us take revenge and teach them a lesson. Of course I will, and I'll teach them a lesson. Luo Feng communicated and smiled. At this time, 3 silhouettes descended from the sky, landing at the side of the arena to watch the battle. One of them was a youth dressed in a silver-gray armor, another was a black-skinned, thick-lipped man, and the last was a jade-eyed, pointy ears and enchanting young lady. The 3 gathered together and looked over. The 3 of them are all universe levels. The middle one is one of the 5 great warriors of the seniors and Ni Nan. Luo Feng swiftly thought of information. Ever since his teacher Tru Yen had reminded him of the universe level 30 seniors, there were 5 great warriors. Luo Feng had gathered some information, of which he specially gathered information on the 5 great warriors. They were Ni Nan, Yu Feng, Luo Fu, Gu, Sajin and Fire Dragon. The earliest to pass the Heavenly Bridge's 7th level was Luo Fu. He had done it over 2,000 years ago. The last one was Gu, who had passed it more than 300 years ago. Moe Lin, teach that punk a lesson. The black-skinned man roared from below. Ah Shi, don't lose to this punk. The enchanting young lady shouted too. And the silver-gray armored youth and Ni Nan watched silently from below. Don't worry. Watch how I teach him a lesson. Moe Lin and Ah Shi stared hard at Luo Feng. They had treated him as a true enemy. Of course it wasn't like they had no chance of winning, as they had passed the Heavenly Bridge's 6th level a long time ago, and were relatively close to the 7th. And strength wasn't just an origin law comprehension. Personal battle awareness, display, mental state, experience. These were the final deciding factors. Moe Lin and Ah Shi were confident that their experience and battle awareness surpassed this Luo Feng before them. Luo Feng, you're too young, your spirit is too strong. We'll make you understand you can't underestimate any opponent. Moe Lin said, the 2 of us will fight here in the arena, you can pick one of us. I've said before, I don't want to waste time. Luo Feng looked at the 2 of you can come at me together. Together? Moe Lin and Ah Shi were stunned. The absolute geniuses of the absolute beginning region watching below the arena were in an uproar. Those that could enter the absolute beginning region weren't too far apart in strength. Of the 30 universe level seniors, 5 of them were at the Heavenly Bridge's 7th level, the other 25 were at the 6th, and the Sky and Land region had 10s of them at the 6th level. What did this mean? It meant that the absolute beginning members were close in strength. It meant that these 25 were all near the top of the geniuses that had passed the 6th level. 1v2. Moe Lin, you 2 teach him a good lesson. Teach this punk a lesson. The number of people gathered below was increasing, of which the 2 universe level members that had just flown over roared. This is getting interesting. Even more interesting. In the arena, Moe Lin and Ah Shi exchanged glances and nodded. That was good too. If they had to deal with Luo Feng 1v1, they didn't have much confidence. And now that Luo Feng wanted to fight 1v2, if the 2 of them teamed up, their chances of winning would be even higher. You asked for it. Moe Lin's silver scales formed folds on his face, looking ferocious. Make your move. Ah Shi roared. In the distance, Luo Feng immediately floated up and floated in mid-air, looking down at the 2 universe-level opponents. How strong he was, Luo Feng was very clear. It was because he was clear that he didn't even put these 2 in his eyes. The reason he came to this battle was to help his good brother Wuka vent his anger. Babata, record the battle footage and show it to Wuka later. You sure are showy. While communicating mentally with Babata, Luo Feng revealed a smile, following which he controlled the dark golden long rod on his back. Rumble. Immediately countless little golden blades shot out in all directions. Countless golden threads of light made it seem as though a golden sun had appeared behind Luo Feng. A total of close to 6,000 little golden blades seemed to instantly connect with the universe space and gold origin laws. Immediately the 100 kilometers area around the arena changed color. The area was so large that it even covered the area below the arena. Arena? Grasp. They all vanished. All that was left was a vast world, with countless blade energies flying about. Nanshan Armament 6th level. Own world, also known as Blade World. My god. Big trouble. Moe Lin and Ah Shi, these 2 absolute geniuses' expressions changed greatly, their eyes filled with shock. This LuoFeng can actually unleash the Nanshan armament 6th level? The spectating large group of sector lords and domain lords were all shocked. This was truly shocking. If one were to say that they were here to watch a show to see if the newcomer was an absolute genius, then right now they were filled with disbelief and disbelief. Because the Nanshan armament was very hard to train. This was one of the 9 godly weapons. It belonged to the gold and space category, and it was a godly weapon that used the gold origin laws as the main and the space laws as support. And the 9 universe heavenly bridge was designed to test one's comprehension of the space laws. Then, the 7th level of the heavenly bridge tested one's comprehension of the space laws. LuoFeng being able to unleash the 6th level, what did that mean? It meant that not only was his comprehension of the space laws high, his gold origin laws were even higher. And there were many ways to pass the heavenly bridge. If the challenger was a controller, he could choose a controller, hypnotist or fighter, any one of them as his opponent. Choosing hypnotist was easier because to be able to become a spirit reader controller, most of them had strong soul defenses, hence winning was easier. Choosing the fighter was the easiest, because he could completely maintain his distance and directly control his spirit weapon to destroy the fighter. The fighter could only struggle to increase his speed again and again to think of a way to get close to the opponent. Choosing the controller was the hardest, because the moment he chose the controller, the spirit weapon that appeared would be exactly the same as the challenger's, even his attacks would be exactly the same. Using one's strength to attack the opponent's weakness. However, choosing the exact same controller, that was too troublesome. He definitely chose the controller as the guardian. Definitely. Otherwise, to pass the 7th level, he wouldn't need to unleash the Blade World. In the arena, Moe Lin and Asher looked at the vast Blade World around them, countless blade energy revolved, the formless world energy pressuring them, they were close to despair. How can it be so strong? And it's the gold and space category's strongest godly weapon? The two were in a mess. In the distance before LuoFeng, the Blade World energy madly gathered, countless blade energy condensed and finally formed a translucent pale golden blade tip. This pale golden blade tip glowed faintly. This was the incomparably condensed Blade World energy condensed to form the strongest blade energy. Its power was unbelievable. Go. Even if I lose, I can't lose in such a pathetic manner. Asher, fight it out with him. Mo Iron gritted his teeth, the silver scales on his face wrinkling up even more ferociously. A giant silvery white cleaver about 50 centimeters wide and 3 meters long appeared in his hand. The blade was engraved with complex golden runes that faintly flowed with silvery white light. Asher's eyes were bloodshot too, both hands wielding a crescent moon blade. Kill. The two moved at the same time. LuoFeng condensed his blade energy. Rumble. Moe Lin fiercely stomped on the ground of the arena, causing the entire arena to shake and crack. Moe Lin himself brought along a sharp whistling sound and a high-pressure shockwave visible to the naked eye as he raised his gigantic silver white blade and slashed towards LuoFeng. So, the black-horned man, Asher, wielded the crescent blade with both hands and moved like a ghost. In an instant, thousands of phantoms appeared around him, and these phantoms formed an inexplicable formation. Countless cold blade lights lit up the entire arena. In the distance, LuoFeng floated in mid-air pointing. Chi. An incomparably condensed blade energy in the shape of a translucent golden blade immediately pierced through the air. I'll first kill Moe Lin. LuoFeng looked at the distant Moe Lin, simultaneously stepping on the dark cloud shuttle and retreating with extreme speed. Roar. Moe Lin wielded the huge silver white blade with both hands. As it moved, the surrounding cold air seemed to freeze space. Simultaneously that huge blade slashed straight at the golden blade energy. He was clear, with the blade energy speed, he couldn't escape at all, the only way was to meet it head-on. Rumble, the golden blade energy was imbued with terrifying force, causing Moe Lin's entire body to retreat fiercely. He took more than 10 steps in the arena, every step creating a deep crater in the arena. Simultaneously his body made cracking sounds as though his bones were breaking. Chi. Moe Lin spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Gold. Young and unyielding. It is indeed very strong. Moe Lin stood where he was, staring hard at LuoFeng. His right arm that wielded the blade had already been broken into 9 pieces. Luckily he had dispersed most of the force through his broken right arm, otherwise his injuries would have been worse. In mid-air, LuoFeng, who had become a beam of light, once again condensed an incomparably sharp faint golden blade energy. The tip of the sword was faintly discernible, and the sword chi tore through the sky. Moe Lin die. LuoFeng stared coldly at Moe Lin. Bastard. The black-horned man Asher, who had become a specter and was constantly chasing LuoFeng, roared. However, LuoFeng stood on the dark cloud shuttle and looked coldly at him. Slowly chase. Ashen could probably cast 10,000 phantoms when he used phantoms. After all, even under the Blade World's pressure, he was still able to unleash 1,000 images. It was a pity that with the Blade World's pressure, he couldn't catch up to LuoFeng. The sorrow of a martial artist. Unless he was like the Masha clansman's instantaneous speed, it was a pity that LuoFeng, who had completely comprehended the first 36 wonders and had some comprehension of the rainstorm picture, wasn't any weaker than him in terms of movement. This caused him to be unable to catch up to LuoFeng no matter how hard he tried. Shio. The pale golden sword chi streaked across the sky and shot towards Mo Iron. Ya. Moe Lin roared, however he felt the pressure from the endless blade world. His every movement was restricted, and he could only unleash 70 to 80% of his strength. Ya. His left hand grabbed the huge silver white blade and once again slashed like lightning. However, to hit the blade world energy LuoFeng controlled was extremely difficult. Before, Moe Lin wasn't injured and in his perfect condition, he could hit it with his life on the line. And now that he was wielding it with one hand, it wasn't as effective as his right hand, his left hand plus his injuries. Shio. The pale golden blade energy flashed and pierced right through Moe Lin's forehead, causing a hole to appear there, completely piercing through. Almost as though he was pierced by a laser. Ah. Moe Lin stared wide-eyed, after which his body slowly fell. With a rumble, his entire body smashed into the arena rocks, causing the rubble to fall. Moe Lin defeated. LuoFeng. LuoFeng. Well done, kill the other punk. A loud shout suddenly resounded from below the arena. It was the Manka Prince Wuka. Wuka shouted excitedly, beside him was Rong Jun. It wasn't just the two of them, even Chen Shui Ai Chen Lancelot and Ao Patela had arrived. The absolute beginning universe level newbies had all arrived. It was because Jiang Mo had informed them. LuoFeng, who was standing on the dark cloud shuttle and flying above the arena, looked down. Seeing Wuka, Chen Shui, Rong Jun, Ai Chen, Lancelot and the others, he couldn't help but laugh and shout, "No problem, it's a piece of cake." Yeah, bastard. Behind him, the black-horned Ashur, who was chasing time and again, however he couldn't catch up, roared angrily, "LuoFeng, if you have the ability, don't run." In terms of space comprehension, he was very close to LuoFeng. In terms of comprehension of the space origin laws, he was much more than LuoFeng, while LuoFeng was stronger in terms of quality. The two were close. And with LuoFeng's blade world suppressing his opponent, how could Ashur catch up to him? What a joke, don't tell me you want a controller to fight you in close combat? As LuoFeng flew, he looked at the black-horned Ashur and pointed, "Go." The endless blade world energy gathered before LuoFeng, forming a pale golden blade tip. The blade energy was extremely sharp. The blade energy broke through the air and shot straight at Ashur. Hoot hoo hoo hoo, Ashur madly waved the half-moon blade in his hands, his entire being becoming a blur. The pale golden blade energy swept past again and again. LuoFeng didn't even want to clash head-on with Ashur, purely relying on the speed of the blade energy. Again and again it shot at Ashur from different directions, ravaging him. How fast was the pale golden blade energy? Every time Ashur felt as though he was dancing on the edge of a blade, it was extremely dangerous. The blade energy shot from the side straight into one of Ashur's ears and out from the other. The inside of his skull was completely minced into paste by the sword chi that shot out. Ah! Ashur stared wide-eyed, his entire body still swayed a few kilometers due to the inertia, after which he fell to the ground. Ashur defeated. Haha, we won, haha. Wuka laughed loudly. LuoFeng, beautifully done. The handsome Lancelot smiled. Well done. Rong Jun, however, waved his fist fiercely, obviously very excited. Chen Shui, Jiang Mo, Ai Chen and Ao Patela were all extremely excited too. The 8 of them were the least experienced and the weakest newbies in the absolute beginning region. Especially with the qualification battles nearing. Jiang Mo, Chen Shui, Wuka and the others understood that they were about to be eliminated from the Heaven and Earth region. Hence they all felt extremely pressured. This battle allowed them to vent their frustrations. It was satisfying. Haha. LuoFeng leapt down and landed beside Wuka and Rong Jun. Those two punks came to provoke me, so I casually dealt with them. Wuka, they were the ones who dealt with you before, right? LuoFeng smiled. They were. Wuka gritted his teeth. I've long wanted to teach them a lesson, it's just that I wasn't strong enough. Haha, LuoFeng, it's all thanks to you venting for me, haha, this feels good. While LuoFeng and the other newbies were celebrating, it was a scene of joy. The universe level seniors had gathered, over 10 of them. Bastard. We actually lost. The 10 of them all had ugly expressions. Because there were over 100 sector lords and domain lords from the absolute beginning region watching this battle. And they lost to a newbie 2 against 1, this made them feel extremely embarrassed. This LuoFeng is indeed very strong. The silver-armored youth stared at the distant LuoFeng. He's actually able to unleash Blade World, looks like I'll have to use my trump card to defeat him. However, this move is what I prepared to use against Luo Fu. And Ni Nan, I heard that Moe Lin and Ashur were taken care of by a newbie? A thick voice resounded. The silver robe youth turned his head and felt as though a small mountain had appeared behind him. It was a 6-meter-tall woman. She wore black battle armor on her upper body, a black battle skirt, and black battle boots on her lower body. Her exposed arms and neck were crimson red, as though they were made of crimson metal. His face was red and square and he could be considered handsome. There were 2 curved fiery red horns on his forehead, and a diamond-shaped crystal was embedded between his brows. There was even a dragon tail growing out of his tailbone. This crazy punk has come? The silver-armored youth had a thought, saying solemnly, yes, Fire Dragon. Moe Lin and Ashur were indeed taken care of by a newbie. That newbie is LuoFeng, who just passed the 7th level of the Heavenly Bridge. He's extremely arrogant, not even putting us seniors in his eyes. After clashing with Moe Lin and Ashur, he immediately declared he wanted to go 1 against 2. Who would have thought that he would be able to defeat 2 people by himself and actually succeed? Look, those 8 newbies are so arrogant. The silver-armored youth shook his head, simultaneously looking towards the newbies. Over there. LuoFeng and the others were extremely happy. Wuka roared over, you seniors have trained for a few thousand more years, what are you being arrogant for? 2 against 1 and still lost. Ah, I feel ashamed for you guys. Wuka. What are you being arrogant for? Immediately the group of universe-level seniors raged. Bastard. The dragon-tail man that was like a small mountain roared. This dragon-tail man fiercely became a red beam of light, after which like a meteorite smashed into the arena, causing it to shake. This tall dragon-tail man immediately extended his fan-like hand and pointed at LuoFeng below the arena. LuoFeng, come up here, let me teach you a good lesson. Can't you just unleash a blade world? How dare you be so arrogant? His voice rumbled and resounded. LuoFeng, who was laughing and chatting with Rong Jun and Wuka below, was stunned. He looked up and his expression changed. It's him? Sajin Fire Dragon, one of the pinnacle races of humanity in the universe, the Mother Flame race, one of the 5 great warriors of the absolute beginning universe level. He trained in an extremely expensive technique that was comparable to the time-space scribbles, black hole evolution. 1,500 years ago, he had already passed the 7th level of the Heavenly Bridge,